Good evening and welcome to the February 22nd, 2023 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating in the Bellhaven Branch Library in accordance with public health guidance for in-person meetings and participating remotely to promote social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. I am Commissioner Mark Bryman. Other commissioners present are Commissioner Aurora Brosnan, Commissioner Marin Bunyagit, Commissioner Peter Diepenbrock, Commissioner Peter Joshua, and Commissioner Kelsey Terrio. I don't see Jennifer Baskin. Is Vice Chair Baskin in attendance or no? No, okay. Staff present includes Library and Community Services Director Sean Reinhart, Acting Assistant Community Services Director Rondell Howard, Library and Community Services Supervisor Natalia Jones, Management Analyst Ashley Walker. Rondell is also the staff liaison for the commission. Ashley will be helping us facilitate this meeting. Ashley, will you please take a moment to provide instructions for the commission and members of the public in attendance on how this meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. Members of the public attending remotely who wish to speak, please take a moment to make sure your first and last name are updated on Zoom, or you may provide your name and the spelling as your phone to speak. Public comment will be heard in the order received and is limited to 3 minutes in length, although it may be adjusted by the chair. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available at the front of the room. Please complete one and turn it in to myself or Rondell before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If you need Spanish translation, please grab a headset from the table. And with that, I'll return the meeting to Chair Bryman.
Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject that is not listed on the agenda. Usually, each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. However, given the high level of interest in tonight's meeting, we're going to limit each comment tonight to 2 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items that are not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Ashley, do we have any public comments?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment for any item not on the agenda, please notify staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. And it looks like we have two speakers who wish to address something that is not on the agenda. Neil, can you hear us?
Yes, no, I can hear. I'm sorry.
I can.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Neil.
All right, so mine does address some other things tonight, but it's also others, and it's not just one, so I figured now is more appropriate. So it regards the pickleball and zip line at Nealon Park. I am concerned about how the city handled both and will handle it in the future. Noise complaints were made to the city about both at roughly the same time, but they were treated very differently. There are only a handful of homes by the zip line and a large number of apartments near the pickleball courts. Despite being much louder than the kids' park, the city removed the zip line and the swings while trying to increase the amount of pickleball. With last week's parking removal, I expect there will be more competition for the little available parking. It is my hope that in the future, the city will prioritize kids' access over the pickleball and tennis players. I would also like to point out that last week, the city council voted to remove every handicap parking space that isn't reserved by the Little House parking lot. This being the only accessible kids park in the city. What is your plan to ensure that it remains accessible to kids that need handicap parking? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Next, we have Brian Kissel. Brian, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me now? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much for accepting public comments. I wanted to thank the Parks and Recreation Commission and department for the ongoing work on the master plan for Parks and Recreation, specifically with respect to pickleball court capacity. I know there's been a lot of research done, and I know that the master plan will also address a number of questions and objectives. But my request tonight is that the Parks and Recreation Department and Commission consider an interim solution for adding additional pickleball court capacity while you are still working on the master plan. We've been at it for over a year now, trying to get additional pickleball court capacity. And a lot of research has been done on usage and public surveys. And the tennis and pickleball communities have tried to get together to come up with a joint recommendation, following up on the original recommendation by the by the Parks and Recreation Commission to instead of using courts 1 and 2 at Nealon Park, to use court 4 for 2 additional courts. And I did send an email to Peter and Sean with that recommendation and the rationale for it. So I hope the group will consider that proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
And then it looks like in person, we have one person who wants to talk about Park Bayfront Park,
Yes.
which is not on the agenda. Would you like to?
Public comment, or they can do anything on parks, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, stand right there,
Okay.
please. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Vicky Robledo. I live on 1120 Madera Avenue. It's something that I've been requesting for a long time, which is park rangers at Bayfront. Mainly because there's so many dogs off of leash that either implementing a fine, which some cities do, and or getting volunteers to do it periodically, where you can get somebody volunteered 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 2 shifts. That's my comment right now. I'll get to E1 later. Thank you.
Thank you. We begin tonight with item D1. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that all the comments we have, Ashley?
That is all the comments. Yeah. Sorry, Mark, can you hear me? That is all the comments.
Oh, okay. Yes, we begin tonight with item D1, which is a presentation on the Bellhaven School Field redesign.
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, members of the public. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're very excited to present on a very exciting project we're working on here at Bellhaven Elementary School. This is part of our big Measure I funded project. We're redoing really all of our schools over the next several years, or ideally several years, probably a little longer. I want to talk tonight about Bellhaven specifically the field we have in the back of the school that we really think is a very exciting opportunity to really activate a space that I think we could be doing some really exciting things with, both for the school and for the Bellhaven community. So just a quick overview of the overall project we're doing here. We have a $50 million budget for the school. We have some preliminary designs really focused on the core campus. which is part of what we're going to be sitting in right now. It's the library that's eventually going to come back into the school. You can see the school during the day on the other side here. The initial design that we have is 6 brand new classrooms and then modernizing the rest of the structural classrooms. So 18 structural classrooms, as well as adding a more appropriately spaced student supports building, a new full-size gym, which we're going to talk about and how we can make that community accessible, and a new playground. Focus of today is not really the classrooms that we're modernizing and building anew. It's really to focus on the field in the back and how we can really design that space in a way that makes it really accessible to the school and to the community. I do want to highlight that the school classrooms are likely going to begin a year from now, so about next year. So we're still doing a lot of the design work, still doing a lot of the engagement work. I was here for 3 hours and talking to folks here every 3 weeks, happy to meet with anyone who's interested in talking about the specific designs. We also have a website that has all of the information that we'll link to later in the presentation. But the focus today is really on the field in the back of the school. So as we think about the current site, there's just a couple of issues that I want to hit on that we've heard as major concerns. The first is it's just difficult to access the field. There's a decent amount of fencing around the site, but not a lot of entrances. They're not very clear as to where they are. 2, on the field and the blacktop, there really is just a lack of shade. You may see that we've actually added solar panels to the blacktop, in part just to provide shade back there. So it obviously is going to offset the energy uses for the school. We really do want to think about just adding shade to the back. Third, there's just what I'm calling sort of slightly awkward, but the interaction between the baseball field, the tennis courts, and the soccer field are all just a little sort of off together. You really can't hit the ball too hard down the right field line without going to the side of the tennis courts, right? So the current layout doesn't quite work. We're using millions of gallons of water annually across all of our fields, but including here at this site. We know not make any more water right now, and we're certainly in big periods of drought, although it may not feel like that right now. But we really want to just be conscious about our overall environmental footprint. The current gym, we're going to talk about quite a bit, but we do think where it is right now, which is in the southeast corner of the school, really puts it kind of far away from the actual field. So it doesn't make it as accessible as it could be for the community to access both the field and that gym. And then right now, because of the design of the school, I forget the count, I think it's 5 different entrances from the north side into the school. There's a lot of different ways into that school. Because of that, we really don't have the ability to give the public access to that blacktop space. And so we are thinking about how can we secure the field, thereby opening up the space in the back of the school, the north of the school to the community. So again, focus of today's conversation is really going to be on this sort of northern area. And you can see on the left, the current satellite view of the school, and on the right are proposed plans. We're really not going to be talking about the core campus renovations, which is where the bulk of the $50 million is going. We're really going to focus today on just a couple different options, and I'd love to hear some feedback from the commissioners in the community about how we can use that field to sort of the best of our ability. I do want to highlight, these are not final designs. We are a year from starting construction. We are continuing to work very closely on getting the design sort of finalized, ready to go, but we're still a year away from construction beginning, and we're even further from that of getting the fields done. The fields will be the last thing to be sort of touched at the school. We will need the field for swing space for our classrooms during construction. We will shut the field down briefly, but that does give us time to kind of really rethink that over the next couple of years. So a couple of options, starting with the one that we've been presenting publicly. This is kind of our initial called starting point. So working actually from the south up, the big change we're making, we're really excited about, is moving the gym from the southeast corner over this pink building over to the west side of the campus. And the goal of that is to put the gym at a place next to the field where there's a clear community entrance and a gym that could be accessed by the community after hours. So it allows the school to have a gym. It also allows the community to have a gym after hours. And have some additional sort of uses. So it wouldn't be just a basketball gym, although I think that's the main goal, but we'd have a small stage, some bleachers for people to sit and watch plays, things like that, as well as some bathrooms, which we know will be, I think, used as the field goes. Working up, we have a full-size parking lot. I think there's some debate about whether or not this is too big right now. But we are thinking about adding not just solar panels to the parking lot as shades, but also publicly accessible electric vehicle charging stations. That's something we're actually adding at all of our schools this year. We aren't able to do it at Bellhaven because there's actually no on-site parking for Bellhaven. The parking that's available is public parking on Ivy over the Hetchy buildings, which you cannot add EV chargers as far as the very north top, we're sort of above the sort of, we're planning on kind of squaring off. So making it a more, uniform field by removing a older and relatively underused play structure, which we're not planning on removing all play structures, of course, it's still an elementary school. But that brown area to the east side of the school, we're planning on making what we're calling sort of a marquee play area. We really want that to be a real community draw, something that's really exciting. We're working on finalizing that. But in doing that, that allows us to square off the main primary fields here. Which you can see sort of as that main green box. To the north of that, we're planning on making kind of a picnic area, sort of thinking barbecue pits, some trees, a little bit of a garden grove, place to sort of sit with some picnic benches that really make it accessible to the community to come sit, eat, hang out, have a birthday party, something like that, or just sit in the shade after watching your kids play soccer. I would note, and this is true for all these designs, that the field dimensions here, we do not have the space to make this a full-size regulation high school soccer field. That is not what we're trying to do. This school is a TK to 5. We're thinking of a space that really is kind of for small kids playing soccer. So as we think about renovating this, we would think about, potentially sort of 2 fields going the short way and 1 proper field going. So this is option 1, this is what we've been talking about publicly. The other 2 options I'll go through a little bit quicker, so they do share some of these same features. The second option is kind of focused on what if we wanted to keep the same amenities that the site currently has. So right now on the site, there is a tennis court and there is a small baseball field. This design proposed shuffling things a little bit in order to not have line drives hit the side of the tennis court. I would highlight, and Sean can maybe validate this or back this up. I know the city does maintain this space. The tennis court and the baseball field have not been sort of overly subscribed in the last couple of years. Part of that is because there's, not sort of consistent access to the courts, and it's not a clear designated entrance, not always clear how to get onto them. I know the city made some efforts to resurface the courts recently to make them more welcoming, more accessible. I still don't think we've had a ton of reservations for those courts. There's 2 courts. There's 1 court right now. And we did have a Little League team out there last weekend, I think, which was great, but I think that was one of the first uses of that baseball field in the last several years. But we could still think about adding the parking lot, still keeping the gym there, and keeping the tennis court and the baseball field, if that was a design that sort of resonated with that. And our third option here keeps the field, but basically shrinks the parking lot a little bit and says, well, what if we actually, in order to kind of drive some foot traffic to this field, as well as serving the community, thought about a space or a building that is actually a community benefit of some kind. This could be a health clinic, for example. I think there's been certainly something that we've looked into adding at different sites of how can we provide health services to our students closer to the campus. And so actually have, vision, dental, other health services maybe on site nearby with a parking lot. It's not necessarily too close to the campus, but reasonably close. The trade-off of that, of course, is that we would not have the picnic grove and we would lose some parking spots.
And lose the tennis court.
And we would lose the tennis court, that's correct. Or I should say we could trade a parking lot for a tennis court. You could still potentially squeeze a tennis court back. Those are the 3 options. I noticed the slide is incorrectly labeled option 2, is really option 3. I imagine most of our conversation will probably focus on feedback for those 3 options, but I do just want to highlight, we're still moving forward with the overall design, but there's a lot of time between now and we start construction to finalize these designs. We do have a website, we do have upcoming meetings. We have tri-weekly office hours. My emails, I think on our website, where you can reach out to me. So plenty of time to give feedback. And we are hoping to come back to the Parks Commission this spring with a bit more of a, here's kind of the direction we think our Board of Trustees is moving in this. So at this point, we welcome any feedback from members of the commission or the public.
Thank you so much. Ashley, do we have any public comments on this item?
At this time, if you wish to make a public comment, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, use *9 to engage the raise hand function. I don't see any online requests, but I have a couple in-person comments. So first will be Bronwyn Alexander.
Hi, good evening. I'm trustee Bronwyn Alexander. I'm a trustee with the Ravenswood City School District. I'm also a resident here in the Bellhaven neighborhood of Menlo Park. And I taught at Bellhaven School for 15 years. So I'm very vested in this little corner of the world in Menlo Park. As a teacher here in the school, I was on campus a lot on the weekends because I lived in the neighborhood as well, doing work. That's when we still had access on weekends to work in our classrooms. And there would be lots of people out trying to using the field. The biggest question coming to me through the fence was, can we please use the bathroom? Or is there a water fountain? Those are the two big things we were always asked. But there were lots of kids out there. There was soccer games going on. Never once did I ever see anybody using the tennis court or the baseball field as a baseball field, except for the students playing kickball, which is kind of a combination of kickball and soccer. We need something here. I would love to see something here. As a resident in the community, I would love to see something there with more community members having access to it. This is a huge plot of land that our students have a huge benefit of using. But as a community member, I'd also like to see it shared with more of the people in the community. We love sharing with the city of Menlo Park. I hope that we can continue to keep this community of working together. It's been tough over the years. Believe me, I know this library well. But I'd really welcome if anybody has any questions for a trustee member as well. And so now you know us, I'll vote probably as a trustee for today. So anyway, thank you very much for listening and for considering the designs that we put in front of you.
And next we have Vicky Robledo.
Feel like I'm gonna be up here. Nice. Thank you. As a native, born and raised here in the Bay Area, own a home here in Bellhaven. I think a piece that I always see missing is addressing the diversity and the culture here in this community of Bellhaven. And it consistently is getting pushed away from our names of our community centers to our parks to our, and so I think first and foremost, preserving that, which we are struggling to do right now, is preserving our culture. And let's not go back into the redlining while we're all here, but no one wants to acknowledge that when they want to change it. So the reality is, first and foremost, our trees, our pollution is the worst here in Bellhaven. We know that. We have 7% trees, 23 on the other side, 48 in Atherton. Using murals that depict some of our history and our culture at these schools where these kids are taught about their own self-pride. Because if we eliminate any remnants or any photos or pictures of anything that reflects their community, they lose that sense of pride. So I think that's really critical. I mean, Redwood City just did a huge mural. And they really did some good studying on how they put that mural. It's over 500 feet under Jefferson. And I think accessibility, which is what you said, if everything's locked up and chained up, people don't feel invited to be a part of that. But again, I think what's really critical is using designers who also can reflect their own culture in designs. And I don't think we should be keeping the structures that we have for the classrooms. If we got $50 million, why don't you build some new ones? I mean, it seems like a lot of money. And again, I think preserving the culture of our community, which was very diverse, we're losing that and we are struggling to keep it. And we need assistance in getting that. So with that, I hope keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Pam Jones.
Pam Jones, resident of Menlo Park, Bellhaven neighborhood. I was looking on my phone for the pictures I took about 2 years ago of the locks on the tennis court. The locks were rusted over and I'm certain they hadn't been used. You couldn't even get in there. You needed a hacksaw to get on there. So the reason that it wasn't used is you could not get. And the assumption, living in this community as long as I have, the assumption often is that people of color don't play tennis, but then they may not know who some of the key tennis players are, the world renowned. So don't assume we don't play tennis. There is a whole area over on that corner that may need the parking. I don't know for sure, but they may need the parking. Personally, I'm really excited about the development. My children went to school here. I was on the parents' council, I think they called it back in the day. So I am familiar, with what we have here. And I'm really looking forward to the finished project, because you're teasing us now. Thank you.
And the last in-person comment we have is Gerald Dow.
Hello, thanks a lot. My name is Gerald Dow. I've been a resident here for all my life, 62 now. I actually graduated from the school back in the day. And that little gym you were talking about, I'm familiar with it. I just had one concern about that. You said something about one of the plans was to move the gym up on the other side of the base here. My question is did you have any concerns or complaints about the residents that's there? Because that a gym that size will be kind of in the area of taking up a lot of space. I'm just wondering if you heard any comments about the residents here. Because the gym that was back here now, I was actually there because of the buildings that are back there now was like a church and some other things is back there. So it wasn't really bothering anybody other than the weekend like that. So other than that, that was it. I just wanted to see if you have any concerns on the residents in the area about building something that big. And not only that, she was right about the tennis. I used to bring my kids out here and play that tennis all the time also. And it'd be nice to be able to get in there without asking somebody to open it for you every time. That's it. Thank you.
And it looks like we have no more comments online, so.
Thank you, Ashley. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Maren?
Yeah, so I noticed you were saying that you had you have talks to people at the actual elementary school about the design. So just wondering if it's going to be also brought into the community to have a chance to see what we just saw, the designs, to get more feedback. Because for me, it was nice to hear about, locks on the tennis court as a teacher's perspective too, and talking, as a fellow teacher, I appreciate hearing what the teachers in Bellhaven at the elementary school, but also the residents that it's going to impact, what their ideas are, because also knowing that we have lots of great events here, maybe parking is a crucial, because that was a fascinating thing that I learned, that the parking that we have out here is public, so there's different things, parameters you can and cannot do. But if we needed to have more parking, because we have a lot of rich activities that come in this area more often now, so something to, but it's talking to the residents and the staff and the teachers and the students too, what they would want.
We can never do enough engagement.
Okay, perfect.
So we've been out, I mean, obviously, we're here tonight as part of that effort. We did do a big bond campaign where we talked about this project as the first project over the leading up to November. Over the summer, actually. We just did a mailer to everyone in the community. Hopefully folks got that. I want to make sure that mailer went out. We have not heard too much from some of the folks next door, but we don't think that's necessarily because it's not support of this or again, we know that everyone's aware that we are out trying to spread the word. We're doing everything we can to get folks here. We do have a website that is every design, everything we've done. We do have our bi-monthly public, our board meetings. We're talking about this for more or less every meeting at this point. So we are doing kind of everything that we can.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, like, I know having things on the website and mailers, thinking about, the more community engagement is maybe a more this kind of environment, not a council meeting, but awake. I know in regards, like, as an example, was with the new building coming up, we had a lot of smaller in-house chats, I guess I would call them. So just thinking about different ways to get the engagement. Not everyone's gonna be able to have access to
Sure.
seeing things on a website or mail. I'm just trying to, as a teacher, just trying to think of, different perspectives, how to access information. And the best way that you're, getting wanting the community, having, I don't know if you have the capabilities, having people go actually to the neighbors around and having these little chats, maybe at the library, monthly or weekly or whatever your capability is. So, to put that in there.
I'd like to suggest that Commissioner Bunyagi's points are well taken. And with that in mind, I personally am sort of gravitating towards option 2, which seems to be a combination of new and old, sort of a refurbishment of what was there and a bit of a change and an addition as well, wherein we're not removing things, we're improving them. And but I think as Maren suggested, we really need to reach out to the community in as easy a way as possible. To ask them to come look at a website is not the same as having a public open conversation.
Chair Bryman, just in case you weren't able to catch the hands, I think Commissioner Terrio had her hand up and then.
Oh, I'm
Commissioner-
sorry, I didn't see that. Commissioner Terrio, so sorry.
I just have a quick question. One of the things you mentioned was about the water use. So I'm wondering if you can speak to what changes are you at the point of planning where you're potentially thinking about addressing that? Like, are you considering turf for the field versus grass?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We are at all of our schools doing our best to reduce our water usage in a bunch of ways. One of which is switching to more native plants. Another sort of bigger use plan is we have a lot of natural grass fields. We're considering serious replacement of all. It's not just here, but in all of our schools.
Great.
I'll just offer another assistant Chair Bryman. I think in order, I saw Commissioner Joshua and then Commissioner Deepenbrock. Raise your hands.
I'm so sorry, I'm not seeing any of that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Joshua?
I've got a couple of questions. You've got $50 million. How much of it is going to be spent on the field and how much is going to be spent on the structures?
That is a great question. I do not have the numbers off the top of my head. I would probably guess 45 and 5.
Okay, if it's capped, is it capped at 50 million?
The district's contribution is probably capped at 50.
And so if there are overruns on the school side construction, that will affect the field, or that sort of.
I don't know that we've thought through that exact scenario. We've been pretty successful so far in keeping our projects on budget. And pretty aggressive at setting sufficient buffer, and we haven't had cost overruns recently.
Going back to the question of water usage and turf versus artificial, turf versus real grass, why wouldn't you use turf? What would be the argument for continuing to use grass? Considering what the rest of the communities in this area are doing, Redwood City is all turf.
I don't. I think there's some people who like the natural grass field.
But we can't afford it.
I think our board and I personally agree with that.
There's been a study on how much a turf field would cost.
There's been a large number of studies on this. I think there's arguments on both sides. I don't pretend to be sort of a scholar in that. I do think over the course of their lifetime, they end up being actually somewhat close, depending on what your assumptions are on the cost of water over time. I think that would certainly tilt you one way or the other. Our assumption though is to some extent less monetary and more just, we have an obligation to be thoughtful about our overall water use.
What about the use of recycled water?
We haven't explored that too much as an option. I don't know how feasible that is.
Commissioner Deepenbrock, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just kind of on the, following up on your comment, Commissioner Bryman. So I think when you talk about these three options, there's several variables, so it's kind of hard to narrow on one. I mean, option 2 is the only one that keeps the tennis court. So it just seems like there should be a conversation focused on the tennis court and whether we should be keeping the tennis court or not. Obviously, it sounds like there's some support there. You know, my on the tennis court are, can the community use the tennis court when school's in session? And are there lights?
Don't believe it.
So the community can use the tennis court from, 4 to 6 in the evening, basically, and then on the weekends.
And when school's not in session and breaks.
Yeah. So it just seems like there should be a very thorough conversation on, the tennis court. I mean, it's important.
I would add, and I think I've heard a lot about the sort of rich history of tennis in this community. We're actually building 6 new tennis courts at our middle school, in part because of the just deep history of tennis. And so we're excited to actually build not 4 like we have now, but 6 new courts, which will actually allow us to run a couple of sort of full-on teams. So with 4, you can't really have games, things like that, but
So the middle school has 4 right now.
the middle school is 4 right now, but the way they are located makes them actually inaccessible to the field. So we are adding 2 more and shifting them to a different location that will make them accessible to the community. Similar hours, sort of limited in some capacity. They will be adjacent to the Rich Mayfield, so they actually will have those lights there. And I think lights on the other side as well. So they will be lit and therefore sort of more available. But so we do have that going for us. I should have been fun for a middle school team. I think it actually made it quite far in some recent tournaments. I think that for legacy and tennis still goes strong.
I'd also like to suggest that option 2 is the only option that does not abolish the softball field.
I would just, the dimensions of it may be slightly misleading. It's not, it would not be appropriate for adults to play. That is very much a sort of the infield, the outfield kind of softball. Yeah, it's probably more of a very young t-ball.
Any
So
other commissioner comments?
is the gym gonna be the same size or?
No, the gym, you happen to know, it's gonna go to a full-size gym. So right now, there's about this much space between the undersized 3-point line and the sideline. So someone with normal sized feet can't actually legally shoot a 3. The gym will be moving to, would be a full-size gym. And it would have a stage, sort of our initial plan. And some other sort of addendum, so the kitchen, bathrooms, things like that. So we're moving from what is effectively an undersized gym to a full-size gym. I don't believe it would actually change the height necessarily, and the way it would be done on the site and expand into our property more. So I don't think you'd end up with huge sightline issues, especially behind those trees. We are trying to protect as many trees on the site. We do plan on adding. We are very aware of the climate injustice. Thank you all for having us tonight. We are sort of on our engagement tour. So if you have more events you want us to go to, I think we're here. I'm here sort of every week at this point, but happy to meet with more folks and talk to whoever's interested. I really appreciate the questions and the thoughtful conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Trustee Alexander, as well.
Now let's move to item E1, which is another study session on the process to identify a name for the Menlo Park Community Campus Project. Library and Community Services Director Sean Reinhardt will present this item.
Okay, good evening, folks. I think I'm gonna try doing this presentation up here so I can see the screen and also see the audience. Before I do that, I just want to reiterate a statement that I made at the beginning of the meeting for the room, but I learned that was prior to the Zoom meeting coming online, so I apologize to the folks in the room. I'm going to repeat myself. But I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that today there were substantial power outages in Menlo Park and the Bellhaven neighborhood. And that those power outages and maybe internet outages may have prevented some folks from participating in tonight's meeting who otherwise would have been here. So we do just want to recognize that and confirm that no decisions are going to be made at this meeting tonight about naming the new facility or any of the other items on the agenda, aside from maybe approving the meeting from last month. We do not want to leave anybody behind in this discussion. It's very important for every community member to have the opportunity to engage in this process. And it is a process that by design is to extend over several weeks. At this point, since we have so many people who are here in the room and the commission is here and has a quorum, we decided that we should carry on with the meeting because folks are here and want to hear this presentation and want to make their voices heard. But I do want to state that we believe we'll probably do a kind of a redo of this meeting next month, just to make sure that those folks who maybe were prevented from attending due to the power outages, that they do have that chance. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and turn to the presentation, which was included in the agenda packet. And so I'll just kind of walk through these slides really quickly. And I think we really just want to kind of get to hearing from the folks who are here in attendance in person and on Zoom. So Rondell, if you could, please, thank you. So this is a study session. It's for discussion purposes only. There's no decision to be made about building names yet. The Parks and Recreation Commission is not making any recommendations about building names yet. The purpose is to hear input from the community and to inform the community and the commission about the process that City Council has directed for identifying a name for the Menlo Park Community Campus Project. And what an exciting project it is. If you haven't been down to the end of Terminal Avenue, you can see it rising before our eyes. It's going to be amazing. Next slide, please. There's a rendering of what the outdoor patio in front of the senior center will look like at night. We're excited to make use of that. Next slide, please. So the long-held dream of this new facility is taking shape there at 100 Terminal Avenue. Since the beginning of this project, there has been a lot of interest among the community in the building's name. It's important to hear what the community thinks and values on that topic, as well as every other topic related to the Menlo Park Community Campus, like the programming and the operations of the facility. And yes, we are going to be getting to that. Tonight, we're focused on naming. For this reason, the City Council on January 24th of this year, they established a process to hear community input about the MPCC naming prior to the City Council making the final decision. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background. I won't read everything on this slide. It is in the packet, but this kind of gives a timeline of when the project kind of came to being. Facebook, now known as Meta, their involvement in actually contributing to building the project. The deconstruction or demolition of the former facilities that were there, the Netta Harris Community Center, the Bellhaven Pool, the Bellhaven Youth Center, and the Menlo Park Senior Center. Those were all demolished to make way for the new building that's being constructed there now. Construction began in November of last year, and it's anticipated to be completed in 2024. So if all goes according to plan, we'll be having one of these meetings in the new building this time next year. But just a little background, almost everyone in this room probably knows, but the names of the city facilities that were in Bellhaven before the construction started, not counting parks, are these here. The Bellhaven Branch Library, we're standing in it right now. There's the Bellhaven Child Development Center across the street. And then over at the site was Bellhaven Pool, Bellhaven Youth Center, Menlo Park Senior Center, Onetta Harris Community Center, And then also down on Willow there at Hamilton is the Neighborhood Service Center. It's a police substation. So 5 of those facilities are going to be housed in the new facility. Let's see, I'm not sure which, did we skip the slide or? Slide? Okay. Here's a beautiful aerial view, by the way, from a few months ago. Thank you, Rhonda. So the naming process on January 24th, City Council directed city staff to undertake a process with robust community input to identify these things. A name or a dedication for the overall building, because it's one big building. Names or dedications for each of those 5 major programs that will be inside of it, because it will have these 5 things inside. It'll have a community center, public library, senior center, youth center, and the aquatics center. Also, recognitions for individuals or groups who donate toward the costs of the furnishings, the art, other elements of the building. So that's what City Council outlined was a process with community input to identify those things. And so that timeline, I mentioned January 24th, 22nd, that's tonight, this meeting we're having. Tonight marks the opening of a 4-week public comment period for Menlo Park residents to provide their input. So this is not the first and only and last chance. We may extend that time period because of the impacts of the power outages tonight. We really want to make sure folks have the opportunity to participate in a live meeting. So that might be a little extended, to take the next dates with a grain of salt. But basically staff conducting outreach in English and Spanish to multiple channels to get that input, including meetings like tonight. Next slide, please. So currently calendared on March 14th is for the City Council to again check in, review and adopt revisions to the naming policy. The city has a naming policy. We'll talk about that in a minute. Or reaffirm the current policy if they don't make any changes to it. Then a month from now, March 22nd, the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Library Commission at direction of City Council will meet again jointly in this room again and on Zoom to consider the community input and recommend these things to City Council. Now, again, that time frame may actually slip back a month now because of the impacts of the power outages. But for the 2 commissions to consider that input and recommend up to 3 names or dedications for the overall building and up to 3 names or dedications for each of those 5 major programs inside of it. Then on March 28th, after that would be the City Council hearing those recommendations, any additional community input at that meeting, and then making the selections, a name for the overall facility and then names for each of those 5 components. Now, again, that date may actually end up being a month later, as I mentioned earlier. This is a view poolside, looking up at the fitness center and dance studio. Next slide, please. So the naming policy, the City of Park does have a naming policy. It was adopted by City Council in 1986. It hasn't been updated since then. On January 24th, the City Council proposed a number of updates just to bring it up to date with current times and to reflect current community interests. Also to establish criteria for naming those components inside of a building that has like multiple services, because that's kind of new. For the Menlo Park Community Campus, it'll be our first multi-service facility that has multiple programs in it. Establish that criteria for recognizing donors, as I mentioned earlier. And then there was kind of an administrative item related to like park benches and other community amenities that they wanted to take out of that policy and put to a different policy. And then again, on March 14th, the City Council will revisit that and formally adopt those revisions if they choose to stick with them. Next slide, please. We're about halfway there, folks, so thanks for bearing with me on this presentation. So from that naming policy, as revised, proposed to be revised by the City Council, there's some key excerpts that I think will help the discussion and kind of frame what the policy has to say about it. So at the direction of the City Council, the Parks and Recreation Commission is the advisory body that considers inputs from the community and makes the recommendation to City Council about names for dedication. So that's why the Parks and Recreation Commission is hosting the kickoff study session. Okay, and other excerpts from the naming policy are around the criteria for naming or dedicating or renaming or rededicating city facilities. The criteria to take into consideration are that there needs to be a clear and compelling connection to significant local places or communities, neighborhoods, history, geographical features, people, achievement, events, other attributes of the city and community of Menlo Park. It just needs to be that local connection. Inclusion, belonging, access, fairness, and justice for the entire Menlo Park community and all the people who are part of it. That's a key consideration. If in recognition of an individual, the criteria is for it to be a deceased person no sooner than 5 years after they have passed. And they need to have made major overriding contributions to the city and community of Menlo Park. And those contributions are under-recognized. And then finally, national, regional, or community groups that have made significant contributions to Menlo Park and have not been previously. A couple more excerpts. The city council may from time to time authorize a dedication or a memorial plaque or other recognition in a facility that is closely identified with a person or group, or to recognize folks who have donated to the facility or individual programs or components of it. But the policy of the city is to retain the historic name of the facility. And there's another excerpt which I think is related to that. And it shall be the policy of the city not to change the name of any existing city facility, particularly one whose name has city, regional, or national significance, unless there are the most extraordinary circumstances of city, regional, or national interest, and no other new facility can be so designated. So real reluctance to change the existing names unless there's some extraordinary circumstances. Okay, one more, kind of reiterating that same point in the policy, that the existing place names within Menlo Park are deemed to have historic significance, and that the city will not modify existing place names, that the reluctant to do so. And when naming or dedicating facilities in honor of a person or person, again, to commemorate a person or persons who have made major overriding contributions to the city that are as yet under-recognized. This is the point where I walk to the other side here. Okay. Beautiful picture of the kind of the rear of the facility, looking at it from Kelly Park, the children's library, outdoor garden there. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about outreach, and we're almost done here with the presentation. This postcard was mailed to all District 1 households, that's Bellhaven and Bayfront areas, in English and Spanish. I wish the postcard was this big, because then the print would have been easier to read, the actual size postcard. That's a little small, but all the information is there. Key one to note is that there is an online survey at publicinput.com/name, or in Espanol, it's /nombre. And you could also just add to the suggestion boxes at the libraries on paper, and some other ways to participate. And then the next slide, I think, is just kind of the other side of that postcard, just to be complete. The address goes there. And then the next slide, please. And again, just reiterating how to participate. Again, that 4-week public comment period may stretch to 8 at this point because of the power outages. We do have these Parks and Recreation Commission meetings. They are definitely happening. We're doing the February 22nd one right now, and they're definitely on track to do March 22nd in this room again. And then the city council decision meeting, again, this probably is going to slip a little later. But right at the moment this was published, it was looking like it would have been March 28th or April 4th, but it looks like we might need a little bit more time. The rendering of the front of the facility, I think that concludes the presentation. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to the commission.
Sean, thanks so much. Do we have any public comments on this particular agenda item?
Just one, we did have several in-person comments and we seem to be having some technical issues with the online comments. Sean, do you have a moment?
Why don't you get started with the in-person ones?
Okay. So first will be Vicky Robledo.
Hello, Thank you again for the opportunity. When this process started years ago, I was involved with it. Then it was told to us that it would retain the name of Onetta Harris. And many of us spoke then as the importance of having that, to preserve that. And my concern is with the beauty of this and how nice it is, it's great, I'm excited. But it also has to be inviting to our community. We don't want to be alienated from this community center. And that means making it inviting to us in all aspects of inviting. Things that represent the people that live in this community, that were born in this community, because we have not been included on the west side of Menlo Park for things that are done. We're not recognized on the other side of town. We have to recognize and preserve ourselves here. And that's what we're struggling to do. So when you take the names of our community activists that really help to get a community center on the east side, it's really, really important that we keep that. I wonder what happened to the art that was in the community center. What is happening? It's like we're being erased completely. And the monstrosity of that, as beautiful as it is, I think the name is critical. Not only names in other rooms that will also represent our community. Because again, the kids that go to this and the adults have to have a sense of pride in their community and know that it's for them, because it only happened when Facebook moved in here and our demographics are changing. And so I don't want to walk in there or see any of the kids from my community walk in there and somebody's complaining about them because they don't fit in to all the 3,000 homes being built here that no longer reflect what I look like or what anybody else here looks like. Another thing, I think it's critical that we keep the staff that was there, because the staff that was there reflected our community as well. And that is critical to making us feel invited. And again, the art that's in there, the workshops that reflect what we want. They used to do Aztec dance, they used to do African dance. They did things that recognize our community. Not that we can't be a community as a whole, but that's not the way it works. That it has never worked that way. So now, again, I think it's just critical to know what we want. And 200 surveys don't do it. 300 surveys don't do it. We need at least the minimum 2,000 surveys out of a 5,000, here that lives in Belhaven. So I ask again, and I thank you for the time, but I think it's really critical that this be taken into consideration. The murals are not flowery murals. Our murals are social justice and injustice, because that's what we've lived. Our murals reflect that. I'm not saying we need political, but it is political. This is political. So I just hope that that's all taken into consideration. And once again, I really, really ask that we keep the name Onetta Harris, because that's a story that needs to be told for generations in this community and for those the new folks that come into this community. Thank you.
Next, we have Greg Goodwin.
Hi, everybody. Dios take legal component. I'm here about this Onetta Harris Community Center also. I grew up in this neighborhood. This was a Black community. And almost everything that reflects anything to do with our culture has been removed from this community. Onetta Harris saved the lives of countless youth that could have went to prison, died early in the whole 9 yards. Instead, they ended up being dentists, doctors, engineers, scientists. Someone played pro sports, the list goes on. The point is, if you remove her from this naming, then you're removing Black history. It's simply that. You are removing our history. And the other part to that is that everybody should be represented in this regard. The families in every way should be represented. But let's go back. 2 years ago, when we were having these meetings, there was a high opposition raised against removing the name of Meta Harris Community Center. And because of that, Menlo Park said they would not remove the name. They would not remove, there would be no name change. Now, we're here 2 years later when the building's about to be done, I ain't finished yet. And now we have to deal with a controversy, and it makes it look like this issue is being manipulated like they did the First Nation people to take all the land from them. So here we are revisiting this after there was a promise saying that there would be no name change because the opposition was raised and it spoke loud and clear. So what I'm saying is that if you look in this community now, you almost see nothing that represents our culture. Absolutely nothing. I worked in the fire department here, one of the first Blacks. Over 90% of the calls came from over here and in East Palo Alto, but no representation. No representation. This city has always, Belhaven has always been like a stepchild to the city of Menlo Park because of our existence. And now that things are being diversified a little bit, then you can see where all the culture is being chipped away. Chipped away, chipped away, chipped away. So we just want to be real with this. You know, something has to be, like Sister said earlier, our children need to have some representation too, something to be proud of, just like everybody else. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next to Yadira Luciano.
Hello, everyone. By changing the name, you're removing the history and legacy Belhaven community members have fought and worked hard to build in our community. Onera Harris fought hard to bring resources and programming that supported our families and children and continues to support our families and children as we speak. In 1983, the Menlo Park City Council voted to rename Belhaven Community Center to the Onera Harris Community Center to recognize her community work. I ask that the name Onera Harris remains and continues to recognize the legacy our community members such as Onera Harris fought hard to leave and to demonstrate something that we have not yet demonstrated, a unity between Belhaven and the city of Menlo Park. Thank you.
Pam Jones.
Still remaining Pam Jones, resident here. I come from this a little bit different perspective, and that is I believe in processes. And I believe that processes you have to work through them to ensure that all people concerned realize it's fair. With that being said, it is important that we make sure that we really reach all of our residents. Now, I hate that we repeat the past, and we know from our CIOP that there was a problem with how the city was reaching residents. So a different kind of path has to be taken. So maybe it's a consultant to make sure that everyone that lives here. And I don't discount the people that own property here but moved out. Because there were many African Americans that have bought property, but they were able to move out and they still come back to the community because they still have family here. And I think they're a part of the community because they still use services. When this school is rebuilt, you're gonna see a lot of folks come and to celebrate that because it's something new. So with all that being said, how it is done with the voting, making sure that everyone understands that there's actually 6 things we're voting for. The five services and then the building. That people understand that that's what we're doing and that the vote is ensured that it is counted and that it is about this community naming it. That, I'm really hard on that one. This community should name the facility because it was something that we generated through government funding at a time when the city was not providing those kind of services. So if you look back historically, it's been something that the community, it's been an inside out project. So thank you.
And last in person, I have Ken Harris. The one more. Yes, second one.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Harris. I am not a resident of Bellhaven, but I grew up in Bellhaven. I went to Green Oaks, went to Bellhaven, went to MA. Opened up a business, a real estate business in East Palo Alto. I was here for 5 years in the Bellhaven Retail Center. Now my office is in East Palo Alto, but we still own property here, and we have a dedicated interest in this community. And what I'm concerned about is specifically is your naming policy for 1983, naming policy for 1986. You know, there was an article written in the Peninsula Times, Sunday, July 17th. It was a memorial for Meta, and the city council approved the name change to Meta Harris Community by unanimous proclamation. Now, how does this play into your current name policy? Well, in listening to it, it seems like all the criteria are met in terms of what Onetta did. I'm her son too. In terms of what she did for the community. But what I'm really interested in is cancel culture. How, you know, people are just canceling out. And why? When you have, especially it's ironic in this Black History Month that we're now in, that this is going on where the name is trying to be taken off the table potentially. And we have deep cultural roots here, ties here. You know, a lot of us came to Bellhaven Community Center, Netta Harris, because that was a comfort zone for us. You know, I played basketball in college, and Burgess was not a Netta Harris Community Center. Most of us went to a Netta Harris Community Center, but that was home for us. That's what we had a sense of responsibility, you know, a sense of welcoming. And I think that when you consider this renaming process, that if it meets the criteria that we expect it to, based upon your representations of what those criteria are, I think it's kind of a shoe-in. But we are okay with the project. We think the project is wonderful, but we are not okay with the name change. What I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Ernesto Reyes.
Good evening, everybody. This is amazing that we are spending all this money, energy. If you think when the money is not yours, you can spend it the way you want to spend it. Look how many people are here in the city. How much is per hour spending money, time, effort for changing the name of a building that has been already existing and has been provided with that name already. It's amazing how Meta has been providing $40 million to do that building, and the city only provided $1.5 million. That's why we are here. We have to comply and to obey what they want. And it's amazing. What really bothers me is this money that we are spending right now between, if you can, this is just only tonight. Let's make how many meetings we are going to have. We have problems of lighting, cleaning. We have so many problems that actually we are not having that issue to be covered. But we would rather to spend money, effort, and energy to provide a different name that we already have. What a waste of money. That's why we are where we are in the country. That's why what is happening right now. So please pay attention to these meaningless things that we have right now. This is nothing. Well, let's focus on something that is more proactive to the Bellhaven, or let's not call it Bellhaven, let's call it Menlo Park. Let's do something different from the past, please. We are old enough to do something different and to talk about something different that we have been doing all the. We are so totally screwed right now. Let's do something not, because the money is not yours. You can spend it whatever you wanted. So it's time to change it, please. Let's learn from the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jackie Sebrian?
Hi, everybody. First, thank you so much for having the meeting over here. I super look forward to when we get to have it in that big, beautiful building. One of the things I have been thinking about since the last little meeting where we talked about the naming conversation, and I looked over the clause that I just want to encourage you to think through, is that as I've seen it, like there's the main building and then there are the sub buildings, and one of those clauses in how we think we want to name buildings says that if we can keep the same name unless we have a particular reason to change it. And since the community center will continue to be called the community center, even inside that giant building, I think it's an easy place to continue that name forward. And then just based on how I would encourage a lot of transparency in what feedback you're getting through the community, and that it's clear that that feedback sort of builds so that when a lot of people show up to talk about it and what sort of things they want in one forum, that it's clear in other forums, like how that conversation is going across. And last but not least, like I think I was at those early meetings where Meta said so clearly that they were not interested in being part of the naming process. So I would just encourage us to also keep that in mind. If that's changed, it would be super helpful to know. So thank you so much for your time, and appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chairman Bryman, we
Yes,
have, we have an online comment from Yasmin Oakley. Can you hear us, Yasmin?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Yasmin Abdusami Oakley, and I am a part of a group called East Palo Alto for Reparations. And we are a community coalition that advocates for reparations and reparative justice on behalf of African Americans, descendants of U.S. chattel slavery in East Palo Alto. And we are the history between East Palo Alto and Menlo Park. I will refer to it affectionately as East Menlo Park, is very intertwined. So I feel compelled to speak tonight when I ask to not change the name of the Onetta Harris Center. There have been several people that have already stated tonight that the erasure of the descendant community on the peninsula is a shame. And for you to, or for anyone to suggest to change the name of our institutions that we built that matter to us is unfortunate. We want inclusion. I don't think anyone has objected to the building at all. We all love a nice new building, but we do not want our local history erased and our descendant community history erased. We also need economic inclusion in Menlo Park, in East Palo Alto, whether that be for entrepreneurs or whether that be for people who have careers. So we thank you, and we ask you not to change the name of the Onetta Harris Center at all. It seems as though the name has already been changed because it's being called the Menlo Park Community Campus Project instead of the Onetta Harris Community Center Project. So I compel you to leave the name the same and let the descendant community be included in the future of Menlo Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Rondell, are there any other online comments?
Yes, we do have another is Kyra Brown. Kyra Brown, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kyra Brown, and I am here in support of the folks who are advocating to keep the name of the Onetta Harris Community Center. I was born and raised in the East Palo Alto community. I am a daughter of East Palo Alto, and I am an advocate for not erasing the contributions of Black folks to our communities. I also went to school with some of Miss Onetta Harris's granddaughters. And so the ties in the community run really deep. And I'm also a former planning commissioner in the city of East Palo Alto. And so I'm hearing about this process, and I am glad to hear folks say that there will be other opportunities for public comment, given that some folks were not able to be present tonight. So I just want to close by reiterating that I'm advocating for keeping the name the Onetta Harris Community Center. I also would like to know when the next meeting is on this topic, so that more people can come and give public comment into the record. And I would also like tonight for the commission to relay to listeners who may want to submit their public comments online, what is the best way for them to do that? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No more comments at the moment. You can continue.
Thank you. I guess we'll open it up now to any commissioner questions or comments.
Since, I'm sorry, I had my head turned and I wasn't sure. Commissioner Joshua and then Commissioner Verjaggi.
Can you pull up slide 45 from the presentation?
I think that's what I was just talking to Mr. Howard about, pulling that up. That is coming up again. There we go.
There it is. It's coming.
Is that the one you're referring to?
No, keep doing that.
It's 16.
There
Well,
are
I put very close to the end.
Well, the naming link is something that was just asked for. Why don't we leave that up for a sec?
Back, keep doing that.
If I may, if the commissioner was kind of wanting to tee up a slide about how to participate in response. No, okay.
Which slide were you referring to?
It's one of the slides that refer to the city, the city council's policy on naming. It's one of the excerpts. I think it's the second slide, second excerpt.
Yeah, he had like 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah. It's on the presentation that you got out, 45, and that's why I'm referring to that one.
Might have been like page 45.
16 on your own slideshow.
Oh, 16?
16.
Is that it? It's, sorry, it's a little laggy.
Yeah. You're going back.
Yeah, it's just taking a minute to load.
Is this it?
Before that. Okay, so, my question here is what, right one? No, the one before, I'm sorry. Wow. No, sorry, getting the wrong direction. Let's try 16. Because I think this is really relevant. Recognize individuals and groups. Next one.
Not to change the name of any existing city facility.
If you stop there, then you went past it.
Is it?
There it
Which
is.
one?
So okay,
It
this is
shall
one.
be the
So
policy.
my question here is, what are the extraordinary circumstances? We're talking about renaming, but what are the extraordinary circumstances? This is the city policy.
So let me do my best to provide examples, which were in the city council report on January 24th. Examples when the city council kind of made exceptions to the naming policy to name facilities after individuals who I believe were still living at the time and weren't deceased. And from memory, there were a few of them, one being, let's see, renaming or naming the Arriaga Family Gymnasium, Arriaga Family Gymnastics Center, Arriaga Recreation Center. That was in the early 2000s, I believe. And Mr. Arriaga was still living at the time, and the city council had made an exception to the naming policy.
But
in that-
what they renamed.
You know, that there was a renaming of, those facilities were previously referred to by other names like Burgess Recreation Center and things like that. So in those
But when
cases.
we're
some of
talking
them
about
were
a change, and what the city council's policy is, that they will not change unless there are extraordinary circumstances. Everyone here has spoken about changing. That's the natural that's been used. So what you're trying to do is change something that is originally, that exists right now. To change it, by this policy, you need an extraordinary circumstance.
That is certainly what the policy says. Now, I do want to make clear that there's no proposal for a name one way or the other. At this point, this process is to.
But the point that I'm making, is the name exists already, and you're trying to change it. And you can only change it if there's an extraordinary circumstance. Which is what the city policy is.
If I may, it would seem to me that this isn't necessarily an attempt to change the name of the facility, but an opportunity to include 5 other names of significance in the region. I think the community thus far has spoken pretty loudly about how they don't want that name to be changed. I think that's something that needs to be considered, of course. And it would seem that this policy, it shall be the policy of the city not to change the name of any existing city facility, would apply. In this case, we have 5 new names that we have an opportunity to honor folks that were critical in that particular community or otherwise.
But you cannot change what is there already, and the name is already there. So yes, I acknowledge the fact that there will be an opportunity to add to that. But the fundamental name has already been established. So you can't change it. Because the city policy says you can't change it unless there are extraordinary circumstances.
I'm not seeing, are there other commissioner comments?
Oh, and mine was just more again, like just what I said about the Bellhaven school redesign of just making sure we have a way to get the input of our district, or sorry, Bellhaven, besides maybe just the survey, just thinking of access again, of not everyone has access to internet or a device. I know they can come to the library. Just wondering if there's any other possibilities. I know when we do surveys for other things, we've been creative on how to do outreach. So I'm just putting that in, since this is gonna be for our community. So we want
Indeed.
every, but in different various forms of getting that information.
I can put the last slide up again, for the different options that we do have. And then, as usual, too, you can always direct people here, and then there'll be other open forums where they can reach out. As well as reaching out directly to staff as well. Yes. Point taken.
The paper.
Just a point of clarification though, Commissioner Benyajic, were you referring to the MPCC naming process or were you referring to the Bellhaven School?
No, I was just
Innovation.
saying, I was making the same comment as
Okay.
what I was referring to the gentleman, I forgot his name. Of just making sure that there's access to getting feedback in multiple venues. So I see the paper, right, that's a great one. For people who don't have access to it in a digital version. I guess if I could add to that, maybe even the community of people who are using the services that we're thinking of, the 5 programmings of, is there a way to even, you know, for example, the students that go to Haven, the after school program, is there a way we can just make sure we have those available to the parents that go there? The library, I know I saw that for the library. Just thinking about those that we're, you know, really trying to hit it, we should hit it at those 5 points. Senior services, bringing it to the seniors during their block of programming in, and access to it in multiple, like English and Spanish. Bring it to the people, to the people using our programs.
Any further commissioner comments?
Chair Brahman, it doesn't appear that any other commissioners have comments at this time.
Thank you. Then under regular business, the Parks and Recreation Commission considers recommendations from city and staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Parks and Recreation approval. Let's move to item F1, which is an approval of the minutes from the October 26th meeting.
If I could just interject, just for the benefit of the members of the audience. It looks like the study session is concluded at this point in time, and the commission is moving on to some other business on the agenda. So just wanted to take that opportunity to make sure folks are aware of that. We're very, very grateful for you being here tonight and for making all of your comments. We've recorded them all. And I just want to reiterate that the commission will meet again next month. There is the city council meeting on March 14th. Grab one of those postcards if you didn't already get one to remind yourself of those dates. And again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Chair Brown.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we need any public comments with regard to the minutes, do we?
Do have to ask for public comment.
Thank you.
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, which is the approval of the minutes from the October committee commission meeting, please notify staff by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. If you're dialing in, you can use the *9 function to engage the raise hand feature. And at this time, there are no comments on F1.
Thank you. With that said, is there a commissioner that would like to make the motion to approve those minutes from the last meeting? Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Bunyagic has made the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. I didn't see who made that second, but thank you.
Peter Diepenbrock.
Oh, Peter Diepenbrock on the second. Thank you. And Ashley, will you call for the vote?
Yes, I will. Commissioner Terry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Bunyahis?
Yes.
Commissioner Deepak?
Yes.
Commissioner Joshua?
Yes.
And Chair Bryman?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move to agenda item G. And informational items are transmitted to the Parks and Recreation Commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question of any of the informational items. Item G1 is a Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan Addendum to include pickleball proposed processes and timeline.
Thank you, Chair Bryman. Now, informational items are typically just to provide updates to the commission and the opportunity for any comment. There typically is no presentation associated with informational items. I want to offer one clarification on item G1, Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan Addendum to include pickleball. We get to the right page. Let's see, this is agenda item G1. Page G-1.2. Item. Let's see, hang on there. Give me a second here. Yeah, item 1 on this list, which is talking about how the proposed addendum to the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan would be really focused on pickleball related capital projects or expansions in the context of the city's overall system of recreation and sports facilities. And the process of that addendum as proposed would include key considerations. And the one I want to make a clarification about is item 1, where it says anticipated changes in pickleball usage resulting from the construction of 3 new purpose-built pickleball courts at Willow Oaks Park, tentatively scheduled for implementation in 2023 and completion in 2024. In fact, there's a little bit of an update to that based on City Council last meeting about the Willow Oaks Park renovations, which is that construction project has been divided into 2 phases with certain elements to proceed in 2023, 2024 around like the dog park and the playground, some elements that were kind of already set, and that the pickleball courts would be moved to a second phase to explore some opportunities for like where best to place them on the site and in context of the addendum. So I did want to make that clarification. But otherwise, that's the extent of my comments, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Are we asking for public comment on that, or are there any commissioner comments on that? Or questions?
Let's call for public comments and then we'll move on to the commissioner discussion.
Thank you.
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify staff by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand. We have one online attendee. Andrea and Nate.
Hi, I'd like to reiterate Brian's comment at the beginning of the meeting. We, the pickleball community, are under pressure right now due to lack of court access. And it would really be wonderful if we could get court 4 restriped for 2 additional courts. It would go a far way towards meeting the immediate need. It's great that the city is looking to add pickleball to the master plan. Highly support that, but we're pressured right now and conflicts are arising right now. So if due consideration could be made for that, that would be great. Also, to the community, I've heard that lessons are going to be held by David Mull at Kelly Park. And I think that's a great step, and I hope lessons also include beginner clinics. There are a few folks that have tried to host some beginner clinics, and those have been very, very well received, well attended. There's an obvious need for that. Menlo Park has a sort of a reputation, or we're known for being friendly to beginners, beginner intermediates. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Katrina?
Hi, yeah, this is Katrina Ryan. I just wanted to reiterate actually what Brian had just mentioned about this need for pickleball courts. We're actually really overdue. I know the Parks and Rec Commission is really focused on meeting community needs, and this one just feels a little overdue. I know we've had several meetings about this already, so I just wanted to call in today to voice my support for really trying to move this along. As we've got a lot of people waiting, and right now we've really just got one main tennis court dedicated to pickleball with four pickleball courts on it. And that is just not meeting the community needs at all right now. So just another plug for additional courts and moving this along as fast as possible. Thank you.
Paul Kick?
Hi, I'm Paul Kick. I live next to Nealon Park, and I just want the committee to consider how loud pickleball is until 10 o'clock at night. Thank you.
There are no other. Oh, one more. David Yoshida?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, this is David Yoshida, live in West Manlo. And with regard to the noise of pickleball at Nealon Park, there is fencing available that will mute the pickleball sound. I certainly appreciate the apartments that are next to the Court 5 at Nealon Park and the noise of pickleball. And Rengstorff Park has installed a sound barrier material on their 6 new pickleball courts. And it really works well in terms of quieting down the pickleball sound. So I would certainly recommend the council and the Parks Commission to look into a matting that can be placed on the fence to deaden the pickleball sound. It can be done. Also, with regard to a long range, I'm in favor of Burgess Park having space available, maybe joint use of the basketball courts for a permanent location for future pickleball. But short term, I'm in favor of adding 2 additional courts or 4 by using Nealon Park courts 3 and 4 for pickleball. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
If there are no other public comments, we can open it for commission discussion.
Any commissioner comments or questions on this item?
Well, just kind of curious how this all works. We had the meeting where we talked about it for a couple hours, we voted. And then the city manager just decides to change the plan. I don't understand how that works.
Thank you for the question. It's not my understanding that the city manager changed the plan. My understanding is certainly city council members and the community have great interest in the Parks and Recreation Commission's proceedings. Often recreation related topics come to the PRC first, and then the city council observes them from there. After the Parks and Recreation Commission made the recommendations, in particular to Nealon Park and restriping some additional courts for pickleball, there came to light some substantial concerns from members of the tennis community, including the Hillview Middle School tennis team, about the potential impacts to their tennis program, which uses the Nealon Park courts for actual like league tournament type play. And they, expressed a desire to have a little bit more conversation before those courts were converted and restriped. So at that point in time, city council members communicated through the city manager a desire to, make some room for that discussion to occur, and to instead focus the efforts on the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan Addendum, which would place like pickleball courts in the context of the other recreation facilities across the city. Because there's a whole prioritization and quite a bit of study was put into that plan. However, it was developed really before pickleball became like a really strong need in the community, and rather than kind of proceed down these paths where there's maybe kind of unintended kind of impacts, to instead focus on going through a process where it's kind of approached holistically. So that's kind of how we've arrived kind of to this point in the overall process.
And so what is the process right now? What's the timeline? What's the plan? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I really welcome that question because it's a great question. And in the staff report accompanying this item, I think I referenced the page earlier, page G 1.2 in the agenda packet. And it's the same informational item. There is a proposed process and timeline about midway down the page.
Which page?
And again, this is page G-12 of the packet. I'm not sure what page number it is in the PDF file, but it's the staff report.
90.
And, with tonight, the PRC reviewing this informational item. And then on February 28th, the city council also reviewing this informational item, outlining this timeline. Then on March 22nd, the PRC reviewing pickleball usage and facility data, including benchmark data from other peninsula cities that provide pickleball courts, and an evaluation of tennis and pickleball user fees. Then in March and April, city staff conducting outreach and engagement with community stakeholders, including in particular current pickleball and tennis users, to collect information about current and future needs related to like that court access, and in particular around pickleball play. Then at the April 26th PRC meeting, the PRC to review that community input and make recommendations for that addendum to the plan to include pickleball. May 9th, all these may be subject to change because sometimes meetings move around a little bit, but May 9th would be the city council kind of reviewing the progress of the addendum's development, offering any input there, and also in particular looking at tennis and pickleball user fees, because city council approves the master fee schedule. So any fees would have to go through that process. And then May 24th, back to the PRC, recommending a final version of the addendum to city council for approval. And then in the June timeframe, city council approving that addendum to the plan to include pickleball, and then also any changes to the master fee schedule to kind of address sort of like the question about fees. So that's the process as it's proposed, kind of get all that accomplished by the time of the city council budget adoption in June. About four months overall, I guess. Great question. And I appreciate the opportunity to read it into the record here.
Thanks, Sean. If there aren't any further commissioner comments or questions on this this informational item, then I think we can move to item, is it G2 or G3?
Believe the next item would be G3.
Yes, item G3.
I'm sorry, 2, the Nealon Park All Abilities Playground, El Capitan.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's 2. It's G2. Yes. Second information item, Nealon Park All Abilities Playground, the El Capitan track ride update.
Yes, and again, no clarifications at this time on that informational item. The report is there. Happy to answer any questions, public comments.
Any public comments?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. We do have quite a few raised hands. First is Paul Kick. Paul?
Thank you. Once again, I just want to keep the committee's mind. We just would like to be able to sleep at night. The All Abilities rides are wonderful during the day. Well, they're not wonderful. They're really loud, but during the daytime, it's fine. When park when park hours are operating, they're fine. But at nighttime, they need to be closed. That ride needs to be closed because it is very loud and it's so enticing to the teenagers who already come and make noise there. If I were to take my videos that I have of teenagers in the middle of the night at Nealon Park and come stand in front of someone's house at 11:30 at night and just play it on my phone, the police would come and tell me to stop. But the police don't come and tell the kids to go home most of the time because they're busy. Thank you again for your time.
Next, we have Christine Ball. Christine?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I live along Nealon Park. I did not see the notice at the park over the winter because I don't hang out on the playground to send in comments to be included in staff's report. However, I did comment at the October meeting. I'm very disappointed to see the staff's report, which ignores the residents' previously communicated concerns and proposed solutions. I agree that having an accessible and inclusive park in our neighborhood is important. However, based on the other features in this park, it will still be inclusive without this piece of equipment. Simply removing it would be the cheapest option, or the city can replace it with another piece of inclusive play equipment. Personally, considering how far the pickleball noise travels, I don't believe simply moving it to the other side of the playground, as some have suggested in the past, will solve the issue. The voices of the residents on our street, all tax-paying homeowners, have been repeatedly ignored. For example, the Parks Department wanted to move the currently 2 hours per day dog park at Nealon to a full-time dog park on the patch of grass right behind our homes. Our street voiced concerned about this change across multiple meetings. However, in the end, the revised dog park made it into the Park and Rec Master Plan. Another example is the current Middle Avenue Plan. The city has not heard our concerns about the proposed parking changes at Nealon that will significantly impact our street. I know we chose to live on the park, and I know that comes with park noise, and I'm 100% fine with that. During the day, I love the sound of children playing, but the city has repeatedly proposed plans that significantly negatively impacts the homeowners on our street. We're not being unreasonable, yet the concerns of our street are repeatedly placed secondary to other park users. We are there every single day. Other individual park users are not. So back to the agenda item at hand, I asked the commissioners, if you lived on our street, would you want to be woken regularly in the middle of the night by the zip line? because per staff's report, it would be on you to call the police every time you wake up if you want something to be done about the noise. And as Paul just commented, most of the time the police don't care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sumaya Khan.
I'm here though.
That was good.
I would like to address the amount of structures the playground has already removed. All of the swing-like structures are completely removed already. Removing the zip line would add to an already long list of removed structures. Although I understand that you are trying to fix the problem of noise complaints, I feel the city is not listening to the biggest users of the zip line, the kids. Instead, we're deciding for them whether or not an extremely enjoyable structure is there for them to play on. Think about it. How would you react if your favorite structure was being removed just because of some kids playing on it noisily at night? It's not your fault it's being removed, but you're still being punished. We're sending a message to kids that what they think doesn't matter, and that is extremely damaging. I believe that we can figure out a way to compromise, such as putting a lock on the zip line or the playground gate at night to stop users from creating noise, or maybe establishing stricter playground usage hours. If the playground is left open at night, I don't know how it's expected for no one to use it. Another thing is that the people who have noise complaints are the ones who live closest to the playground. Not expecting noise coming from a playground left open is unreasonable. If the complaints are extremely important, I feel action should be taken that does not involve removal of zip line. Thank you.
Ibrahim Khan.
So as similar to what Sumaya said, we're not letting the kids decide. And also this zip line really helps emphasize child play and hanging out with your friends, because every time I've went to the park, it is the most enjoyable structure of Neyland Park. So completely removing it would cause great discomfort for everyone who enjoys playing on it. And I don't think it would be very reasonable to cause such sadness because some residents who live near the park can't deal with a clicking noise at night. Thank you.
Lenore Bangkok.
Excuse me. I also live along the park and I hear the clicking sound, but the worst thing is what happens at night. I think children and young adults, teenagers, need to learn to have a sense of community. And the community means not just them and their needs. It's those who participate in using the park and those who live around it. Paul has made a very good point about the sounds, as has Christine. I think it's a fabulous park, and the structures that are standing there are used with a great deal of joy, and parents are participating and helping their children be there. But for some months, the zip line was not used at all for various reasons. And I have a sense that people adjusted to that. We have to remember it can only be used by 1 or 2 people or children at a time. So it has its own limitations. So I speak to locking it at night, which I think wasn't working well, because in our October meeting, we found out that young adults had broken the locks in their efforts to be on the zip line. So yes, the noise at night from young people who shouldn't be there at all is really a big burden for everybody who lives around it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Mary Kuchler? Hi, Mary, can you hear us?
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So my name is Mary Kiekler, and thank you to all your commissioners for the time you're spending on this. I have been a resident next door to Nealon Park for nearly 25 years now. And I intentionally bought next to the park. I love that park. I played in that park when I was a student at Oak Knoll. Raised my daughter there. She went to the co-op. I love everything about the park. I love the park noise for the most part. To call the zip line a clicking noise is a gross understatement. I'd love to put together a panel of kids to try and come up with a solution, frankly, because as adults, we haven't come up with a good solution. Locking it on the weekend doesn't work. Kids want to play with it. I completely understand that. But the noise at night is not acceptable. And, you know, I think if we're teaching our children anything, let's think back to the golden rule. And really, please give me your phone number. I will call you at 1 a.m. when I've been woken up by the sound of that noise. It's not acceptable, but I do believe we can find solutions. So I hope we'll continue to remain, open-minded and continue to work. It's not an either or, have it, get rid of it. We had monkey bars before, and I don't know, do people think those are dangerous? I thought they were wonderful. Quite a bit of the play equipment, the spinner did get broken by misuse. The zip line is being misused. We have spoken to the consultants about this, and quite frankly, we keep going through this with the history of the park. We hire consultants, the community gives good advice, and then it's ignored. How our comments from the neighborhood has not been included in the staff report is a huge disappointment, but is a bit consistent with other issues we've dealt with, the dog park, the irrigation well, et cetera. So thank you to the commissioners. I hope you'll all, again, stay open-minded. I think locking it at night is a solution. Could you empower some of us adults who live on the street? Maybe we can help keep it locked up at night. But thank you again for your open-mindedness, and I hope we can find a solution for everyone. It's a great park and we all love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
And it looks like at this time, there are no other public comments.
I'm sorry, Ashley, did you say there were no other digital comments?
Correct, no more.
I guess now we can open up to any commissioner thoughts or comments, questions. Well, I will say that we have been talking about this for a long while, and it seems to me that we're dealing with two issues. There's the issue of use, and there's the issue of abuse, right? Unfortunately, we haven't been able to figure out how to stop the abuse. And it would seem to me that we have a lot of resources, and we have a lot of thinkers, and I can't understand why we can't figure out how to prevent the loiterers or the abusers, and that we're going to take it out on the children. It just makes no sense to me. Any other thoughts?
I think we've been told repeatedly that the city just does not have the resources to lock it. We don't have the time to go there. It's just not budgeted.
Well,
Even if we could get a locking mechanism that worked. Because there seem to be two issues with the locking. It's one, we don't have the resources to lock it and unlock it on a regular basis. And second, the locks don't work.
We just had an adult community member suggest that maybe we could make use of them as resources to help police the situation. There are fences, yes, locks may not work, but is there any other way other than just removing the thing and disappointing the children who love to play with it?
I was just gonna add, I did like, there's another solution is ask like having, since we're still at a place where we're still trying to problem solve, asking the community of children who are using it, if they have any other solutions that could make a realistic impact for that. Yeah, I think that would be really a great opportunity, teachable moment to have community voice and engagement with the people who are using the services for the equipment.
So through the chair, if I may, first of all, I do want to express gratitude to the public commenters this evening. Your perspective and voices are very much appreciated. With respect to including some comments in the staff report, if there were any comments submitted through the suggestion box, as kind of noted on the sign, if those were not captured, staff sincerely apologizes and will, make sure to correct that. I do know that the public comments that were given at the October 26th meeting were captured in the minutes of that meeting that were approved this evening. But I understand that it's not the same as having them incorporated into the staff report. However, those did come before this current kind of closure for the winter. But the comments are well taken, very much understood. I think they all point to a kind of a sticky problem that we're all working together to try to solve. And I think what I'm hearing is a lot of commitment to continue to work on that and try to solve it. So, there's just a number of steps and solutions that we've had attempted over the past few years since the ride was installed. And one remaining step that was voiced a number of times at the October meeting. I didn't hear it come up tonight, but it is kind of one of the last obvious solutions to try that we're going to try is the enforcement element, where calls for service related to overnight unauthorized use of the ride, because it is closed after dark. The entire park is closed after dark. And the police department spoke directly to the police chief about this to see if that solution will have an impact. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. If it does, super. If it doesn't, then we will be back to the drawing board. And at that point, we'll have to really, I think, take some more substantial kind of steps to sort of balance the needs, which are absolutely valid and legitimate on all sides of this issue, both the neighbors who live near the park, who deserve to have some peace and quiet overnight, and also the users of the park, in particular children and children with disabilities who deserve a place to play together, on the same equipment. So I think there's just that shared commitment to find a solution. And that's one thing that's amazing about the community of Menlo Park. If we all share that commitment, then we will find a solution. It just may take us a little time to get there. So with that, I turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is G3. The commission is to receive information regarding the advisory body recruitments.
And basically, this was just another informational report to just a friendly reminder that it is that time of year again for recruiting commissioners, members of advisory bodies, including the Parks and Recreation Commission has a couple of vacancies coming up. Thank you. Yeah, 2 vacancies are coming up. And interested applicants should submit the online application by Friday, April 7th. So commissioners, if you're eligible for reappointment, I would encourage you to apply for reappointment. And if you know Menlo Park residents who might have an interest in serving on the commission, please do direct them or refer them to this information.
Thanks, Sean. Do we have any public comments on that?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify staff by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you dial in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. We do not have any public comments this time.
Any commissioner questions? Okay, then we'll move to item H on the agenda, which is commissioner reports. Is there any particular commissioner that wants to report on an item of their choosing?
I just wanted to, oh. Okay.
Yes,
Got me? Okay. I just wanted to share out, I think, I don't know if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, the event that was here, the Black Liberation Celebration was a great, well-attended event that, I could see a lot of well attendance from all different departments as well in the community, and just wanting to highlight that's something that we'd love to continue to have. And even at a bigger scale in the future of, this is what Menlo Park looks like. This is what Menlo Park, and reminding, that there is a lot of beauty and a lot of different services and different programmings that we want to always continue to highlight and embrace to make it feel inclusive and communal, because it really did feel very communal with everyone from the preschool to after school program students, being a teacher at Beechwood to seeing, a third of the art students from our school. It felt really beautiful and happy. So wanting to put that in a jar and have that be able to be expressed over time in other arenas as well, when we do have things that are challenging, to remind of like what it can look like and what the future, and how when we empower everybody who works so hard on these events, and wanting to highlight the richness of the cultures and the community and the stories that they're here. We want to make sure they continue and grow.
Thank you.
thanks, Mary. Well, then it looks like we can move to adjournment. Thank you, everyone. I think that concludes our meeting for tonight, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.